Okay, so I've been using this Hyperstack utility cart for a little while now, and I really like it. You can see I've got a bunch of their accessories. I actually really like the Velcro loop accessory. So I have that, and then got the little bin, and I've got some hooks on here. And then I've got the magnetic tool attachment, which I really like on here. So been using it a few weeks, really like the cart, but I have found a couple of things that I'd like to improve on it. So the first thing is that it's got two fixed wheels on the back and then two swivel wheels on the front. So if you like using it like a wagon, that's great. But around my garage, I think I just want four casters so I could spin it around. You can see like when I'm trying to move it right now, you got to kind of steer it, right? No big deal. But anyway, at first I was just going to upgrade it with these Harbor Freight swivel casters. They were on sale, but then I got a great deal on these locking swivel casters from Amazon, and they were even cheaper than the Harbor Freight version. So I'm going to put these four on here so that I can kind of spin it around like a cart. Okay, before I put the last wheel on there, I just wanted to do a side-by-side comparison of the wheels that came with the cart versus the kind that you can get from Harbor Freight or these that I pick up from Amazon. The first thing I noticed is just the quality and the weight. These are really heavy duty, the ones from Harbor Freight. This is probably the heaviest duty version out of all three. This one feels a little bit lighter weight. These are the ones that I have on that tow hitch wagon hack that I did a few weeks back. So they're very heavy duty, very good value for the price. This one just had the extra lock on it, the wheel lock, so I could lock this service cart in place. These are really inexpensive. So they're very lightweight. So you can see the metal on here is very thin, but which is fine for what you're using it for. But see how that compares with the thickness of this metal here. Let me see if I can get them side by side. And you can see how thin, hopefully you can see how thin the metal is on these wheels. Let me just get the caster for you compared to the metal that's on the Harbor Freight version. So you can kind of see it side by side there. Anyway, I mean, these will be fine if it was on just another light duty cart. But this is a pretty heavy duty cart that Hyperstack has out. So wanted to get some at least decent wheels on here. I was again going to put the Harbor Freight ones on, but got a really good deal on these Amazon ones. And then they lock in place, which is nice for the service cart because once you get it into a spot that you like, I've got three of them on. So let me see if I can just reach under there and lock it into place and then it won't move. So let me get the fourth wheel on here and show you the finished product. Okay, so now I've got all four casters on and you can see it can kind of just spin around. Let me take the lock off here. And lot easier to maneuver in the garage now. You can kind of pull it any way you want, have it go whatever direction you need it to go into. Definitely worth the upgrade to get, four casters on here again. You can kind of spin it around now. And then what's nice about these casters is they have a lock on it. So you can kind of lock it into place. And if you're working on something, kind of lock it down. Then you have a nice stable platform to work on. The cart won't go rolling down the driveway. So again, here's that first hack. I've got a couple more, so let's jump on into those. Okay, so the next modification that I'd like to make to the Hyperstack utility cart is to add a paper towel holder somewhere. So I was looking for some good attachment points on this cart. And what I noticed is that in this cup holder, there's a bit of a hole down here, an opening. And so I thought, I can get one of those single-sided paper towel holders and get that attached. So here's what I ended up with. I had to get a couple of different versions and they didn't work, but this one worked because it has an opening. Let me get it out of this bag. So I'll put a link to this particular one in the description below, but there's a couple of different styles like this, or it doesn't have to be this particular brand, but the style has to be just like this if I can get it out of the bag. Okay, so you can see here, it has a screw here, and I thought about just putting a coupler on that and then getting some fender washers and then fitting it to underneath there. But what I'm going to do instead is use the mounting plate. So there's the fender washer that I got. So I'll get this mounting plate and I'll attach it to the underside of the cup holder, and then get a fender washer on the other side and sandwich that in. And then this, how this attaches is it goes on top of that mounting plate with that little set screw there. So let's go ahead and try and get this hardware all to fit. Probably need to get a couple of screws, and I still want to be able to use my cup holder, so I don't want the screw sticking out way too high. Kind of want it flush as flush as I can get it to the fender washer, and might need to use a nylock on there as well. So let me take the top off, flip it over, and then we'll start working on it. All right, so here we are. I've got the top off, flipped it upside down, so this is the bottom of the cup holder, and you can see it's got a little bit of a ridge here, so this doesn't fit perfectly flush. I'd like it to sit like that, because then no gaps between the edge of the paper towel holder and the plastic gives it a really nice mounting surface. Because if I put it on now, it's going to be sitting on top of that ridge, and you can see it's not quite flush. It's not going to be super strong, that mounting. It's going to wobble a little bit with that little bit of gap. So I think what I need to do is sand that off. So I'll probably get a little die grinder and just sand this part down a little bit. Structurally, I don't think it does much, so I don't think we're going to harm anything. This plastic is pretty strong. You can see how thick that plastic is on that hole where we're going to be mounting the brackets. So let me grind down or sand down this a little bit. All right, so I just took like a little die grinder here. So this is my trusty Milwaukee right angle die grinder, and I just kind of grinded out these ridges here. So you can see it's got a nice, if I can focus, it's got a nice flat surface now for this to mount to. And so once this is on here and really tight, there's no wobble. So what I did is I took this mounting bracket, and you're going to have to widen it just a little bit. So I took a drill bit and just kind of reamed it a little bit so the hole was a little bit bigger to accept this M6 screw. And I went to the hardware store, and I basically just picked something up that had a really flat head. Didn't want a hex bolt because it would stick out too far, and if it sticks out too far, then you interfere with this mounting bracket down here. So what you want to do is get an M6, and this is by 16, so it's an M6 by 16 millimeter, 16 millimeters long. And then I got another, just a nut, just to give it some support around this edge. Otherwise, you're just having this screw, the threads here just on here. But if you put a little bit of a nut on here, I tried to look for a bushing, that's just to give it a nice tighter fit, but I couldn't find a bushing. So basically, the nut's the best way to go. So once that's on there, I'll tighten it down, and then that way it'll fit into this hole. And it's still got a little bit of wiggle room. It's not a super tight fit, but maybe I could do some spray foam or something just to keep it tighter, but we'll go ahead and just keep it as is. So this is the bottom, then I'll flip it over, show you how I get the top in. All right, so once we're back on the top, so this will mount from the bottom, and then I've just got a fender washer here, and then I chose to get a nylock nut just to make sure it stays on as tight as possible. So let's go ahead and get this mounted up, and I'll show you again. This M6 by 16 seems to be just enough where I get this on and there's just enough threads, and then it just stops just at the top of the nut. That way I can still use the cup holder and get maximum sort of depth out of the cup holder without the nut sticking up and hitting the bottom of my cup. Okay, so now you can see it in there. It's sticking out just a little bit. Maybe you can go to an M14 if you can find one. My hardware store didn't have one. But you've got the thread sticking up just a tad. And so I can grind that down a little bit, but when I test fit a cup in here, it didn't seem to interfere too bad. So let's flip this back over and finish up the install on the bottom side. All right, so now you can see why I wanted those ridges sort of sanded down. So now that I've got plenty of surface on here and it's not wobbling around at all. So let's get the rest of this thing mounted on here. All right, so you notice that this thing's a little crooked. So what happened, I noticed, is I can't get to that set screw between this part of the cart and where it needs to be over here. So what I did is I just installed it this way and tightened it onto the mounting bracket, and it's loose enough where I can just turn it and get it into position. And so there it is. There is the paper towel holder, and it seems pretty sturdy. So let's put this back into the position that it's supposed to be in. We'll flip everything back over, put all our tools away, and see how this works. All right, so we've got the paper towel holder onto the cart, and it's surprisingly sturdy. You don't want to get anything too heavy on it, like you don't want to hang a power tool off of it, but for a paper towel holder, that's pretty good. We'll call that a job done. All right, so that's the second modification that I made on this tool cart. What I want to do next is get some of these magnetic strips mounted. You know, there's a couple places we can put them. Put one here. I'll put one probably down here. And I'd like to get some on the side here, but you know, I'm wondering if I can 3D print some of these cleats and then just screw them along the sides here so that I can put the more storage bins. I kind of wish they put some cleats at the bottom as well. That way you could just put some different things on the bottom. So I use this cart mostly probably just to work on stuff on my car. And so when I'm working on the car, you know, I'm usually underneath the car. And so it'd be nice to be able to access some of the things that I have down here. But I think we'll just make do with a magnetic strip down here, and then maybe one on this as well. If I do it on this, the problem is then I won't be able to use this shelf as the work platform. You know how you can put it on top here and it fits in this channel as a nice work platform. If I do that, these things will interfere here. So maybe we'll just mount it on the bottom for now, and then I'm gonna try and see if I can 3D print some of these. And I know some people sell 3D printed versions of these already, and then you can just screw it in here. If I'm not hanging anything too heavy, maybe I'll just use some double-sided tape or some epoxy glue just to glue it on. I hate drilling too many holes into things, although structurally, it seems like it'd be okay. So anyway, that's the paper towel holder. Pretty happy with that. So now I've got the 4-way casters on here and the paper towel holder, and this cart's coming along nicely. So let me go ahead and mount these on here, find either some screws or maybe a nut and bolt to the back of it, and then we'll get that attached to the bottom. I'm going to try it with these self-tapping screws, and this number 12 seems to fit this hole pretty well, and it kind of fits right in between this spot here. So we're just going to line it up with the top edge and then screw it in real quick. Awesome. So we've got one side on. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, and this is nice because, you know, if I'm down here on the ground working on something and I just need to, instead of having these sockets roll around on the ground, I could just stick it up here and it'll hold at the bottom of the cart. So it'd be nice if they had the cleats at the bottom, so these top cleats on the bottom here, so that you could add the different accessory rails from the top of the cart down here to be able to hook it in and put stuff in there. Or, you know, if they had the cleats down there, then I could just buy a few of the magnetic plates that I have up at the top and then just be able to transfer them to the bottom. That way it's nice. So when I work down here working on a car or something like that, and instead of having the sockets sort of rolling on the ground, you can just have them right there as you're working underneath the car. So they do have an accessory rail, which is this, and this is meant to screw up on your wall, or screw onto the wall, and then that gives you the accessory cleats that you can hang stuff on. But it's a little too thick to screw into the bottom of the cart. And then the other thing I wanted to do is, it'd be nice to have these cleats going down vertically along this leg here. That way, you know, you could put some more of these little trays on the side, but they don't have one of these that can screw on the side where the cleat is vertical instead of horizontal. So what I might end up doing is try to scan these and then make a 3D print and then make little cleats, and then I can just stick them on here or screw them on here. You can screw them along the bottom as well, but these are fairly inexpensive, so I may just keep this the way it is. It seems to work pretty well. There's actually 2 of them on there, but this seems to work pretty well, just screwed on here. Very inexpensive, but it'd be kind of nice to have the cleats on here just to add some additional storage space and make this utility cart extra useful. It's pretty neat right now. It's pretty useful the way it is right now with these 3 mods that I did to it. So again, just to recap, what we did is we put on 4 swivel casters instead of just the 2 that were originally on here. So it originally had the cart style wheels, which had 2 fixed wheels and then 2 swivel wheels, and then you'd had to push it around and maneuver it. But now I can spin this 360, get into some really tight spots, get it exactly where I need it to. And these ones that I got from Amazon are actually locking, so you can hold it in place. So if I'm using this as a sort of mobile workbench, it's kind of more stable. So that was one of the first mods that we did. And then I used the little cup holder hole here to put in a single arm paper towel holder. So originally that hole is there for if you have like a cold drink and you get condensation, it's supposed to allow that to drain out. So I may drill some extra holes in there just to allow that to happen, but I think I can live with that. Hopefully I don't get too much condensation and it rusts this thing, but it's supposed to be stainless steel, so that's cool. But it was a very easy, simple mod just to be able to add this in here using the holes that were in here, because there wasn't really another good spot to mount this. And then the last thing we did, real simple, just screwed on a couple of these magnetic rails just to hold stuff at the bottom here. And then the next big thing is, I'm going to try and maybe make another platform so I can use this instead of having to use the second shelf. It'd be nice to be able to just keep the shelf there and then have a flat work surface to work on different projects and things like that. But anyway, those are 3 quick hacks that will make this HyperStack utility cart even more useful.
If you're enjoying these videos, please consider subscribing to the channel and to the newsletter using the links below. We'll share more tool buying tips, classic car and classic motorcycle project finds, some motorsport news, and maybe a wrenching tip or 2.